Have you ever tried to fill a tire with a leak? You put a lot of effort into keeping it inflated, but can only go a short distance before refilling it. A community with only reactive management feels a lot like this. You spend all your time trying to keep those tires inflated, which is exhausting and it slows everything down. Moderation is a part of having a community, so there's no escaping it, but it shouldn't be taking up the majority of your time. You're already taking your first step here by setting up your community, your values, and your guidelines to help with moderation. Next, to help you break free from reactive community management, we'll be covering some healthy community management practices over the next few lessons. Let's first talk about the hard conversations you might need to have with community members. First, before any conflicts happen, make sure you always encourage the behavior you want to see in the community publicly. If you see someone posting in alignment with your community values and guidelines, let them know and thank them. For example, if your student is having some technical issues and a community member jumps in to help with troubleshooting, make a point to tag them in a public thank you. This sets an example for how others can earn some public kudos in the community as well. The same goes for behavior that you shouldn't be encouraging. If you see someone posting or commenting in a way that's out of alignment to your community, you should kindly guide them in the right direction. This takes some finesse, but just remember to be kind and assume the best intent. For example, in the Thinkific community, when someone comments, "Direct message me for further details," it goes against the rules of no solicitations. I'll respond publicly with something like, "I'm certain your knowledge is super helpful, and I would appreciate it if you could share it with the whole group so that others can learn from it as well. Thanks." But what happens if you have members breaking your community rules? If they've broken your rules and the way that they did wasn't so awful, then you might want to start with a warning. Somewhere in your community guidelines, you should indicate how many warnings you'll issue before someone is removed from the group. Having this clearly defined sets clear expectations for your members and also gives you validity on removing someone from your community. Warnings are always best given privately so that you can have a direct conversation and limit disruption in your community publicly. Email or direct messaging works best here. We've given you some inspiration for messaging you can use down below this lesson. If a person in your group has broken the rules multiple times, then you should remove them from your group so it stays a safe place for the rest of your members to connect. Again, rules like this should be clearly outlined in your community guidelines for your members, and in your terms of service if possible. If you set up great rules and guidelines and more importantly enforce them fairly, then you'll be moderating your community effectively. You'll also be able to focus more of your time and energy on facilitating. This is where the magic happens. Remember all those engagement tactics we talked about in the last chapter? Those are also the key to effective community moderation. They help you move from reactivity to proactivity within your community.